So for step 24, attaching the gearbox, this is pretty much a 3-step process. The first thing we're going to need to do is grab these 2 pieces off parts tree C and drop them down on here. And as we'll see in the actual step, they actually help to create more rigidity in the chassis before you put the gearbox on, but I'll show you that after. The second step is we're going to drop this down, but first we have to slide in that piece into the opening in the chassis. And again, I'll show you that in the second piece. And then for step 3 of this, we then are going to screw this in with the 4 screws coming up from the bottom, and then there's going to be 2 coming in through the side of the chassis. So I'll grab the screws that we need and let's attach the gearbox to the chassis. Okay, so for this first part, you can see that these are the pieces, and you can see that there is a lip on one side, and you can see that the way this is done, the lips are pointing inward. So if you grab the chassis, you can see that that is going to fit on top like that, and the other one with the lip facing inward is going to fit just like that. And I mean, you can see that this is going to help with the rigidity of both sides, because when they're put together there wasn't anything holding it, so they're going to help along with the gearbox fitting on top of that. So that's the first part done. So then we move on to the second part of this, and you can see that what we have to do is we need to slide this piece right here into the chassis there. So you can see that's going to fit into there, and then it kind of pops down. So that is how that's going to look. So then we're going to move a little further, and now it's just going to be a matter of screwing it all in. Now you can see on the bottom here, these are all going to be these BB3 screws, which are the flat heads, because we want the bottom, the underside, to be level with the bottom of the chassis, which is why they're that type of screw. So just to make sure everything stays in place, let's grab the other 2, these BA4 screws, and screw them into the sides here. That way we've got something holding the gearbox onto the chassis for the moment. And we'll grab the other one. And you can see these are going to go into here. Now I'm not going to tighten them all the way, I just want to make sure that there's something holding this on, which there is now. So what we can do is we're going to turn this over, and now we're going to start screwing things downward. And again, I'm not going to put it all the way down yet. I want to make sure that everything is going in without any binding. And everything's feeling fine. Let's add that last screw. Okay, because the chassis is so long, it's kind of getting in the way of the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten these up and I'll come back. So there we have it. All 4 screws are now flush, and we've got our 2 screws up here that are also screwed in nice and tight. But this is the weirdest thing. This car, it's kind of got a boat-like shape to it, and the wheelbase, I don't know if you can see this here, but the wheelbase is incredibly long. So this is really kind of interesting, and I'm assuming that is what gives this car a bit more stability, because I've seen videos of it where when it's jumping, it's incredibly stable and incredibly level. So I think that all helps, but it's shocking once you put this together just how much of a gap there is between the front and the rear axles. Anyway, that step is done. So now we are going to move over to step 25, which is the damper assembly. And if you remember, this one is going to come with the oil-filled shocks. So I'll grab that kit and we'll get started on making the shocks.